serving eastern and southern Kentucky. Mountain News at 6 starts now.
It is about as clean a fuel as you can possibly make for transportation today.
Some engineers say Kentucky may hold the key to solving what some call a national energy crisis. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Hensley.
And I'm Danielle Morgan.
Leading our news tonight at 6, the Saudi Arabia of the West could lie right in the bluegrass of Kentucky. At least that's what some scientists and politicians are now saying.
That's right. House Majority Leader Rocky Adkins says America is in a crisis, importing more than 62% of our oil from foreign unstable countries. But researchers say Kentucky could supply relief for the entire nation with none other than coal. And that's tonight's top story at 6.
You may not know it, but there's a big chance that you eat coal every day. Well, sort of. The coating on apples, oranges, and other fruits and veggies comes from a wax that's converted from coal. The black, dusty rocks that have driven the economy of southeastern Kentucky coats one of our basic food groups. And for chewing gum addicts, it's in those bubbles you pop too.
It's clean enough to be rated edible by the FDA.
Of course, there's quite a big process between converting coal into this FDA-approved wax, but politicians are even more interested in what more can be made from this seemingly versatile product.
Kentucky has enough coal that if converted to transportation fuel, we could become equivalent to Saudi Arabia.
Dr. Davis is the Associate Director of the Center for Applied Engineering Research at the University of Kentucky. It's in those Lexington labs that researchers do just that, convert coal to transportation fuel, or syngas.
The diesel is of exceptionally high quality. Commercially, it is made in South Africa, and about 50% of the fuel used by South African airlines is made from coal.
Davis says the fuel from coal can be made at almost zero emissions. The cleanliness is one of the things that attracted Representative Rocky Adkins to get legislation started so the diesel, engineered by Fisher-Tropsch, can be commercially made for American vehicles. And once again, that wax offers another benefit.
This could also be stored as a strategic fuel reserve, like we do oil today in this form, and then taken and turned into this very clean transportation fuel that is made from coal every day.
Now, not only is the fuel made from coal very clean, researchers say consumers could save about 1/5 of the cost at the pump.
50 cents a gallon or less.
Some experts say black gold could have a whole new meaning in Kentucky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Hensley.
And I'm Danielle Morgan.
Leading our news tonight at 6, the price of gasoline has gone down a little since this spring, but many drivers are still complaining about the fluctuation in cost with seemingly no explanation.
Tonight, we examine one fuel option that could set the price lower than we've seen in decades, and that's tonight's top story at 6.
When you hear the cost of coal-made fuel, you may think it's too good to be true.
We could certainly be making transportation fuel from coal at $15 to $20 a barrel rather than importing it at $70 to $75 a barrel.
AAA reports even at $2.21 a gallon for regular unleaded at the pump, the price per barrel is about $58. Representative Rocky Adkins says the technology has been around since World War II, so you may wonder, what are we waiting for? He says South Africa already uses a mixture of syngas and oil for 50% of its jet fuel. But to fill up your car's tank, engineers say a little tweaking is left to do.
The gasoline from Fisher-Tropsch is not necessarily as high quality. It's good quality gasoline, but it still needs a lot of work to get the high octane that's required. But the diesel is very high cetane number, which is the diesel equivalent measure of octane for gasoline.
Governor Fletcher and the Appalachian Regional Commission released a blueprint for energy to push the nation forward in non-petroleum-based fuel alternatives, including a plan to curb the cost of research and development.
In order to keep the rates down for our customers and to be competitive, we're going to have to work with private companies with their investment and then provide some incentives for those companies to utilize new technology.
The success of technology in Kentucky may benefit Homeland Security as well. Representative Atkins says the single largest user of foreign oil is the U.S. military.
The Department of Defense has put out a request for proposals to actually start testing these very fuels in their tanks and their fighter planes, and to try to get to where they can only use one fuel.
Dr. Davis says at $40 a barrel, the cost of building and operating the plant would be paid for.
Now, if this technology ever becomes a national reality, that could mean a big boom in the coal industry.
The demand for jobs would just be unbelievable.
If some leaders for alternative energy sources get their way, a big demand for coal could be on the way to eastern Kentucky. Good evening, everyone. I'm Steve Hensley.
And I'm Danielle Morgan.
Leading our news tonight at 6, southeastern Kentucky's economy has thrived, of course, on coal production for decades. But what if the Commonwealth or the entire nation relied on the coal fields of Appalachia for transportation fuel?
That's what some engineers and state leaders are pushing for. Some say such a huge demand would bring more jobs and more money as well. But could Kentucky coal operators handle the job? Well, that's tonight's top story at 6.
More than 1 billion tons of coal are already being produced. President of TECO Coal, Bob Zick, knows that number all too well. And he says if Fisher-Tropsch plants are built to convert even a portion of that coal to fuel, Kentucky could boom.
Coal production could increase by another 500 million tons. And that's just a huge demand. It would be a big boom for the economies of all coal-producing regions.
Zick says the biggest drawback is the demand for people to produce the coal.
Right now, there's a shortage of labor in the coal industry, and this would just put a lot more stress on the coal industry, and it'd make it very promising for younger people looking at coal mining.
So what about the amount of black gold left? Some question if there's enough coal for Kentucky's economy, let alone fueling part of the nation's transportation.
All the best coal has been mined previously. It's just more difficult to mine these days, and it's more expensive to mine.
With a supply that Zick says could at least support the next generation, engineers say the next step is getting the state and federal governments on board.
If someone would guarantee for the next 20 years that the crude will be at $70, then people will build Fisher-Tropsch plants and make a lot of money in operating them.
There has to be something either in the tax structure, in depreciation rates, or some incentive to maintain a bottom price per barrel so these plants would be somewhat subsidized should the price fall below a certain level.
Zick says that needs to be done through some sort of tax incentives or government appropriations.
Kentucky is now leading the nation with a model high school program to attract young people to the mining industry. Lawrence County High School now has the Kentucky Junior Coal Academy. School administrators say it's the first program of its kind in the nation. Through the curriculum, students can work towards a 2- or 4-year degree in mining engineering.
Mr. Box is welcome to everyone, and the teachers on staff that handle that. I want to share with you that
this program is a chance for me to get a head start on just a good career in this industry.
Interesting to get to know because it's one of the most important things in our area, and it employs more of people in our area. So.
29 students are currently enrolled in the first class. Several other states interested in the program were represented today to learn how to incorporate an academy in their area.
Well, this week we've told you about initiatives to convert coal to liquid fuel, how it's done, and the demand it would bring to coal operations here in eastern Kentucky.
Big deal. Tonight in our 4th and final part of our Coal to Liquid Fuel series, we examine where the nation might go without gaining independence from foreign oil.
It's no secret that America is dependent on unstable countries for oil. In fact, that's how we get 67% of our transportation fuel.
Why would a country like America, which is the superpower of the world, be buying fuels from an unstable country in the Middle East? We could have problems next week.
It's a common question, especially among engineers who have seen the benefits of Fischer-Tropsch wax made on the University of Kentucky's campus. Dr. Burt Davis says if the $87 billion appropriated for the first year of war in Iraq were invested in these plants, the nation would be on its way to independence.
If we had invested that $87 billion in Fischer-Tropsch plants, we could have made 7.5% of the crude that we import.
Our study says that we can do this within a period of 30 years. We can be completely independent.
Ken Nemeth, the Southern States Energy Board Executive Director, says that could happen with an aggressive investment of at least 5% per year. But if the plants are built, Representative Rocky Adkins says there will be another problem.
We have a big shortage in this country of engineers.
Adkins says we can't compete with China's 700,000 graduating engineers and India's 400,000 who can all speak English, with America's 75,000. That's why the new Kentucky Junior Coal Academy in Lawrence County Schools is so important.
It's real exciting knowing that you can go out of high school and go straight to a good paying job, or just go on and more, a larger degree, engineering.
It's about hope and opportunity for our people.
Alternative fuel engineers say it's about national security as well.